What if the reason you feel constantly behind isn't because you're lazy, but because your attention is being stolen faster than you can use it? Sit with that for a second. Most people aren't drowning from lack of ambition. They're drowning from noise, notifications, emails, endless pings, tiny interruptions that shatter deep concentration before it even has a chance to form. And after years of this, you start to assume something's wrong with you, when in reality, it's your environment that's hostile, not your discipline. But here's the twist. In a world built to distract you, the people who can truly focus are the ones who rise above everyone else. And that's where the idea of designing your perfect work routine begins, not with doing more, but with protecting your mind. Wait till you hear this. Cal Newport calls it deep work, and he defines it as the rare ability to focus without distraction on cognitively demanding tasks. When you're in that zone, you produce work that actually matters, work that moves your life, your career, or your dreams forward. The kind of work you look back on years later and think, I'm proud of that. But here's where it gets real. Most people never experience that state for more than a few scattered minutes. We've been trained for shallow work, scrolling, inbox cleaning, clicking, responding, reacting, refreshing. Tasks that feel like work, but don't actually change anything. So here's the hero moment of this story. This is where you get to choose which world you operate in. Newport argues that deep work isn't just a nice habit, it's a superpower. In the modern economy, people who can enter deep focus produce at a level that's almost unfair. Think entrepreneurs who build platforms from scratch, artists who create original, high-level work, programmers who write code that millions rely on, writers who publish game-changing ideas. They're playing a different game than the distracted world is even aware exists. And the best part? This isn't limited to geniuses or prodigies. Deep work is a skill, a trainable one, which means your routine, the way you structure and guard your time, becomes your competitive advantage. But before we talk about routines, we need to understand why they matter at all. The human brain hates switching. We think multitasking is efficient, but neuroscience shows the opposite. Every time you switch from task A to task B, your brain leaves a residue behind, attention residue, a sticky leftover mental energy that makes it harder to fully engage with the next thing. It's like trying to sprint in sand. You can move, but you're fighting the ground with every step. Now imagine switching tasks hundreds of times a day. From TikTok to email to texting to browsing to Slack to Spotify to YouTube. No wonder people end the day exhausted yet unsure what they actually accomplished. Here's the plot twist. When you eliminate constant switching and design your routine for depth, your brain becomes capable of things you forgot it could do. Creativity, insight, clarity, and output at a level that feels almost addictive. But here's where things get fun. Cal Newport breaks down 4 philosophies of deep work, 4 different ways to structure your routine depending on the life you want to build. 1. The monastic philosophy. This is the absolute extreme. Imagine cutting off everything that isn't your craft. Authors retreat to cabins. Founders go silent. Writers disappear for months. It's powerful, but obviously not realistic for most. 2. The bimodal philosophy. Instead of disappearing forever, you create large, dedicated blocks for depth, maybe entire days, weekends, or seasons. Think Bill Gates's famous Think Weeks, where he would vanish with nothing but books and ideas. 3. The rhythmic philosophy. This is the most realistic for regular people. Deep work becomes part of your daily routine, like gym sessions for the mind. Same time, same place, reduced decision fatigue. 4. The journalistic philosophy. This is for the chaotic schedules of journalists. Use any gap, any pocket of time, to drop into deep work on command. Harder to master, but incredibly powerful. Already you can probably guess which one fits your current lifestyle. But here's the exciting part. You're not locked into one. You can design a routine that blends these philosophies into a system that fits your personality, workload, and goals. But here's where the story turns. Most people never get to this step because they never dare ask the real question. What would my life look like if I took my focus seriously? Because if you answer that honestly, everything shifts. So let's ask that question again, but slower this time. What would your life look like if you took your focus seriously? Most people never pause long enough to imagine it. But once you do, it's hard to go back to the old way of living. Because suddenly you realize that most of your frustrations, feeling behind, feeling scattered, feeling stuck, aren't caused by lack of ambition. They're caused by wasted attention. And here's where Cal Newport drops a truth bomb that stings a little. Your time may be infinite, your attention is not. That single sentence is enough to change how you think about your days. Because time can be filled with anything, but attention can only be used for something. And the difference between those two is the difference between feeling busy and feeling effective. Wait till you hear this next part. Once you understand how valuable your attention is, you start to realize how recklessly you give it away. Not intentionally, just subtly. Tiny leaks, tiny dings, tiny drains. Pull to refresh here, scroll a little there, tap, tap, tap. Then wonder why 3 hours disappeared and your best work never started. And here's where designing your perfect work routine gets serious. The first step is defense, not offense. Before you can build a deep work habit, you have to protect the space where deep work happens. And that requires boundaries, physical, digital, emotional, and time-based. Let's break these down one by one. Boundary 1. Physical space. Your brain associates spaces with behaviors. Your bed is for sleep. Your couch is for relaxing. Your kitchen is for eating. But when everything becomes your workspace, bed, couch, kitchen table, your brain gets confused. It can't enter deep focus because it associates the environment with everything except focus. This is why elite athletes have training facilities, why musicians have studios, why writers have desks. It's not about luxury, it's about cues. Your routine needs a cue for depth. It doesn't need to be fancy, it just needs to be consistent. A desk, a corner, a section of a library, a coffee shop. The same seat, the same setup, the same ritual. Boundary 2. Digital space. This is where most people lose the battle before it starts. The war for attention isn't external anymore. It's in your pocket. Newport doesn't say you have to quit the internet. He just wants you to control it instead of letting it control you. The trick is simple. Tools aren't the enemy. Unfiltered access is. Imagine trying to read a book while someone interrupts you every 30 seconds to show you random videos, alerts, and news you didn't ask for. You'd lose your mind. But that's exactly how most people work with their phone within reach. Deep routines require digital separation during deep sessions. No notifications, no tabs, no dopamine drip, no algorithm. Even 60 minutes like this can change the output of your day. Boundary 3. Emotional boundaries. This is the boundary nobody talks about. Deep work requires the ability to sit with boredom, discomfort, uncertainty, and slow progress. Shallow work offers quick rewards. Check the inbox. Done. Respond to a message. Done. Check social. Stimulated. Refresh. Stimulated again. Deep work offers delayed rewards. You don't feel progress instantly. You don't get dopamine every 10 seconds. It's like planting seeds in the ground, silent and invisible until suddenly, it's not. If you don't build tolerance for that delay, your brain drags you back to shallow tasks to feel something. Boundary 4. Time boundaries. Newport suggests something counterintuitive. Schedule your deep work. Like appointments, like workouts, like something you refuse to miss. Why? Because if it's not on your calendar, it gets replaced by shallow tasks automatically. The world will always fill your unscheduled time. Now here's where things get exciting. Once you've built defenses around your attention, now we move to offense, actually structuring your perfect work routine. Because here's the kicker. Your mind already knows how to enter deep work. You just haven't designed conditions that invite it. Most people assume discipline is the missing ingredient. But Newport argues it's not discipline. It's architecture. Design beats willpower. Structure beats motivation. If your routine makes deep work the default, you win without fighting yourself. But here's where it gets really interesting. There isn't one perfect routine. There are multiple models, and your job is to find the one that aligns with your lifestyle and goals. And that brings us to the next major question. How do you actually build a routine that produces deep work consistently? That's where we're headed next. Of designing your perfect work routine. Because once you know deep work matters, and once you defend your attention, the next step is simple. Build a rhythm your brain can depend on. Cal Newport gives 4 primary models for doing this. Think of them like workout styles. They all build strength, just in different ways. Model 1. The rhythmic routine. This is the most accessible and arguably the most powerful for beginners. You schedule deep work at the same time every day. Like going to the gym every morning, your brain starts expecting focus. For example, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., deep work block. No emails, no social, no messaging, no multitasking. Same hours every day. Why does this work? Because discipline is costly at the decision level. If every day you have to decide when to focus, you lose energy before you even start. Rhythmic routines eliminate decision fatigue. It becomes automatic. And here's a funny twist. Once your brain associates those hours with depth, it becomes easier to drop in. Less friction, less mental negotiation. Over time, it becomes as normal as brushing your teeth. Model 2. The bimodal routine. This is for people who need longer stretches of solitude to produce great work. Instead of doing deep work daily, you block larger, uninterrupted chunks during the week or month. For example, Monday and Tuesday, deep work days. Wednesday through Friday, regular, shallow work days. Or even more extreme, November, deep work month. December, everything else. Think writers, researchers, designers, founders, people who need long tunnels to build big things. Bill Gates' famous Think Weeks were bimodal. He literally disappeared into a cabin with a stack of reading and no distractions. It's dramatic, but that's the point. Deep work benefits from immersion. Model 3. The monastic routine. This is the hardcore model. You remove shallow obligations almost entirely and dedicate life to deep pursuits. Think monks, philosophers, novelists, mathematicians, people whose contribution to society comes from thinking deeply rather than responding quickly. Few people can pull this off without dramatic lifestyle changes. But the lesson here is important. Depth is incompatible with constant availability. If you're reachable 24/7, you are in shallow mode by default. Model 4. The journalistic routine. This one sounds chaotic but is brilliant for certain careers. You fit deep work into any pockets of time you have, the way journalists write under deadlines wherever they are. This requires the ability to switch into deep focus on demand, which is extremely rare. But once cultivated, it becomes a superpower. Think of it like musicians improvising. You don't wait for the muse. You don't wait for perfect conditions. You sit down and produce. Now here's the fun part. Most people try to build routines backwards. They focus on productivity tools, apps, to-do lists, timers, color-coded calendars. Newport argues none of that matters until you answer a far bigger question. When, in your ideal life, do you actually produce your best work? Morning? Afternoon? Late at night? In silence? With background noise? With coffee? After exercise? Before meetings? Your perfect work routine isn't about time, it's about energy rhythms. Because here's another truth bomb. Productivity isn't about managing time. It's about managing your brain while it's most alive. There's a reason athletes don't train whenever it's convenient. They train when their body performs best. Creative and cognitive work is no different. Identifying your peak cognitive window. Everyone has one. Most people ignore it. For many high performers, it's 2 to 4 hours after waking. For others, it's late night when the world gets quiet. And for a weird subset of people, it's mid-afternoon after a slump. Find your window. Protect it ruthlessly. That single adjustment can 10 times output without changing anything else. Now here's where most people get stuck. They want deep work, but they pack their days with shallow obligations first. Meetings, inbox, calls, social, admin, errands, all the stuff that drains mental clarity. By the time they get to their real work, there's nothing left. But here's a rule that flips everything. Do deep work first. Everything else can wait. Suddenly, shallow tasks are squeezed into the leftovers, exactly where they belong. But here's where it gets real. Designing the routine is only half the journey. Living it without abandoning it is the other half. And that's where ritual, feedback, and shutdown enter the picture. We'll get into those next.
So now you've built the plan. You've chosen your deep work philosophy. You've identified your cognitive peak hours. You've rearranged your day so energy, not randomness, drives output. But here's the final piece that turns a good routine into a bulletproof one. You need rituals and boundaries that make the routine sustainable. Why? Because without structure, even the best designed routines die under pressure. Life gets noisy. Unexpected tasks pile up. People want things. Notifications sneak back in like weeds. Cal Newport offers 3 tools for durability. Tool number 1, ritual. Rituals eliminate decision friction. They remove the daily negotiation between the motivated version of you and the lazy version of you. Think simple rules like, deep work always starts at 8:30 with headphones and no phone. Internet stays off until lunch. Coffee, notebook, same seat, same playlist. Rituals don't just signal focus. They signal identity. They tell your brain, this is who I am. This is how I work. It's the same reason athletes have warm-ups, actors have pre-show routines, and writers have coffee rituals. The ritual flips the switch. But here's a funny truth. People love flexibility until they realize flexibility kills consistency. Constraints are freedom disguised as structure. And if that feels too serious, don't worry. Rituals scale down. Even a sticky note that says, no email before deep work, can change everything. Tool number 2, feedback. Humans are wired for progress, but progress is invisible in deep work. You don't get likes, you don't get dopamine hits, you don't get praise, you get silence. So you need your own scoreboard. Newport calls it lead measures, things you can control. For deep work, the lead measure is almost always greater than hours spent in deep focus. Contrast that with the lag measure, which is outcome, finishing a book, launching a product, shipping code, getting a promotion. You can't force outcomes directly, but you can force input. That's the secret. Track your hours, track your streaks, track your wins. Watch your skill curve rise. It's both scientific and oddly satisfying. Want a quick pattern interrupt? Here's one. Have you ever met anyone who did 500 hours of genuine deep work and had nothing to show for it? Exactly. Tool number 3, the shutdown ritual. This one surprises people, but it's critical. At the end of the day, you stop working fully. You do a mental sweep, tie up loose ends, document tomorrow's tasks, then say a literal phrase. Newport uses shutdown complete to tell your brain the workday has ended. This reduces what psychologists call cognitive residue, that buzzing mental background noise that keeps you checking email at 11 p.m. Ironically, The shutdown ritual boosts tomorrow's deep work more than any productivity hack. Rest is not optional, it's strategic. Because here's the truth most hustle culture influencers won't admit. The brain's ability to focus is directly proportional to its ability to unplug. Sleep, silence, boredom, nature, walking, shower thoughts. These aren't laziness. They're incubation chambers for insight. And here's the real payoff. Once these systems are in place, something shocking happens. You start producing higher quality output in less time, with less stress and more satisfaction. Suddenly the question flips from, how do I get more done, to, how little shallow noise can I get away with while still crushing what actually matters? That's the moment you stop reacting to life and start directing it. The hero returns, and it's you. Earlier we framed you as the hero, not the writer, not Cal Newport. You. And every hero's journey ends the same way. They return home transformed, with a gift. Yours is simple but priceless. Control over your attention. Because in a distracted world, that's the closest thing to a superpower we have left. And here's the quiet punchline to the entire book. You don't need to work more. You need to work deeper. That's how you design the perfect work routine, not by squeezing more in, but by protecting what matters. If this resonated, don't just scroll on to the next distraction. Pause. Rethink how you work. And if you want more scripts like this that help you reclaim your time and build a life you actually want to wake up for, hit subscribe and stay on the path.